L'chaim Shlomo. Should have a year v'yatzlacha. You should see the fulfillment of all your heart's desires for good, without any worry, without any inhibitions, without any challenges. Just see goodness and happiness and the good feelings that you bring to everyone. So it should bring to you much, much more greater reasons to be happy. You should find your heart's desires for good. L'chaim. Amen. Shlomo's birthday is tonight, the 23rd of Shvat, but the truth is tonight is also connected to the 22nd of Shvat, the anniversary of the Rebbe's passing. The Rebbe spoke about this day as a day of tremendous blessing. The Rebbe said, in this day, through this day, and with this day, blessing comes upon every Jew and all the Jewish people, and a blessing that creates more blessing. And today, we all saw something, not everyone checked the news, but I want to share with you, those who haven't seen it, it's unbelievable, the miracles that happened today in Israel. There were 5 buses that they planted bombs on, and they planted the bombs were there, and the bombs detonated, the bombs blew up. But miraculously, they set the bombs to blow up at 9 o'clock. That was the best time to attack the Jewish people, right? 9 o'clock, the bus is full. But instead of setting the bus off at 9 a.m., set the bus off at 9 p.m. So buses are in some parking lot somewhere, and miraculously not only didn't hurt one person. 3 buses blew up without anyone inside them, and 2 buses the bomb didn't work at all.
What are the chances of that?
There's no. It's a miracle. It's a miracle of Hashem, and it really highlights to us personally, individually, that there are a lot of things that Hashem is doing for us personally that we may not recognize the miracles of Hashem. Hashem is helping us, holding our hand. We may not recognize it, but that's the reality. That's reality, and which brings us to the subject for tonight. Tonight I want to talk about a common refrain people often say that is very dangerous and very misconstrued. People say, I want to be authentic. I want to be real to myself. I want to be real. And therefore, because I want to be real, I want to be authentic, I want to do things that make me feel good. I don't want to do things that make me feel bad. And so because of this desire to be authentic, they actually lock themselves up in a box and they say, I can only do this and I can't do that. And tonight we're going to learn about feelings in general and how to navigate our feelings in a healthy way, in a powerful way, in a way that's really transformative, because it sounds so compelling, the argument that people say, shouldn't you follow your feelings? It sounds so compelling, and it's truthfully not the way that we're meant to live. Feelings have a place, and we're going to learn about that. But feelings aren't who we are. Our feelings change all the time, and we cannot live our lives bowing down to our feelings all the time. Let's and this approach of being authentic, being real to my feelings, is actually not the way to live an authentic life, and we'll see why feelings aren't that which defines us, but instead that we should live a truly authentic life. There was this businessman who was very abrasive, very tough, and people asked him, why are you so tough? He said, this is just the way I am. And one day his son comes home crying. He says, what happened? He said, I punched the kid in my class, and he punched me back. Why'd you punch him? Well, that's how I felt. I did what I feel. The father, not even realizing it, he educated his child to follow his feelings in an unhealthy way. So let's look at this from this week's Torah's perspective. This week's Torah's portion talks about a person's walking in the road, and he sees a donkey. And the donkey belongs to someone that he does not like very much, and therefore he's resistant to help him. The Torah says the donkey is crouching under its burden. The Torah says you have to help him. That means you recognize this person you don't like. The Torah is saying you have feelings. And yet the Torah says go out of your way and help the guy that you don't like. So we see over here that the Torah is saying that feelings should be respected, should be heard. You know you don't like the guy. Those feelings are present inside you. But at the same time, don't follow your feelings that cause you to resist helping the person. Instead, you should help him. Feelings are like guests in your home. You have guests in your home, you give your guests food, you give your guests drink, you give them a place to stay, but you don't let your guests control your home. You don't let your guests expel you from your home. Some people look at their feelings as their identity, as their passport. This is who I am. But the truth is that we're not meant to let our feelings control us. We have an amazing ability that God gave human beings to control how we behave. That means despite how we feel, we can control how we respond to whatever's going on. Not our feelings are what control our behavior, but we control our behavior despite our feelings. We have this ability to sort of look at our feelings as a observer. Imagine if you notice yourself feeling angry, notice yourself feeling jealous, notice yourself feeling nervous, anxious. So you should listen, know what your feelings are, but listen to your feelings as a spectator. To what are my feelings trying to tell me? Why am I feeling this way? What are they trying to tell me? Let's say it this way. I'll just bring it down very clear. If there are two people, right? One person has a donkey who is crouching under his burden and the burden needs to be taken off the donkey. There's another guy, let's call him Beryl, and Beryl has a donkey and he's trying to get the load on the donkey. So you have Yankel who's trying to get the load off the donkey, and you have Beryl trying to put the load on the donkey. Who are you supposed to help first? Yankel or Beryl? Yankel to take the load off the donkey, Beryl help to get the load on the donkey. Who do you help first?
Reverse psychology, the one on the donkey.
What?
Put the one on the donkey.
Let's say off.
No, but who's first?
The one on the donkey.
No. You help the donkey. The donkey is suffering. The donkey has its load. So Torah says Tsar Balei Chaim. Torah says you should pay attention to the pain of the animal, and therefore the first guy you got to help is the guy whose load is on the donkey. However, there's an exception. What if you love Beryl and you hate Yankel?
You want to help him.
You want to help. You hate Beryl, and you love Yankel, and Beryl's trying to put the load on the donkey. So the Torah says even though you usually take care of the animal first, Torah says, one second, what about your own animal? You also have an animal inside you. You also have an issue inside you. Your animal feels this animalistic animosity to Beryl. And therefore the Torah says, ignore the donkey with its burden on its back and pay attention to your own animal instinct not to want to help Beryl and resist that instinct and go and help Beryl even though you don't want to. He takes precedence. Beryl takes precedence. Why? Specifically because you don't like Beryl. Because you don't like Beryl, Torah says, control your animal instinct.
What about if you like him?
If you like him, so then, if you like him, so then you're supposed to help the animal first, the animal that's suffering first. The animal.
But he's suffering too.
So who goes first? So in general we say, take the animal's burden off the animal, the animal's suffering, but take the burden off the animal, then help the guy who wants to put the burden on the animal. But if you don't like the guy who has to put the burden on the animal, then you help him first. Why? Because the Torah says, what about you have to take care of your own animal? Your own animal, your own ego is suffering with its feelings of animosity. You need to put that in check. You need to put that in check and you need to get control of that. There was a fascinating story going around the internet. I didn't put it into Snopes to fact check it. This is the way the story is going around. There was 40 years ago, Israel had this operation called Operation Solomon, and they were bringing a lot of people from Ethiopia to Israel.
Yeah.
And of course, although there are many opinions about the status of Ethiopian Jews, the halacha is that all those from Ethiopia had to go through a conversion before being accepted as Jews. Just in case, we don't know if they are or they aren't Jewish, they had to go through conversion. But either way, Israel saw that there were 17,000 Jews who were caught in the crossfire then of the civil war going on in Ethiopia, and they wanted to airlift them to Israel, to safety. And they sent a statesman to Ethiopia to try to convince then the prime minister of Ethiopia to let the Jews leave, or let the Ethiopians who thought they were Jewish to leave. But the problem was the prime minister was asking for a lot of money, but the statesman was able to convince this guy to let go of his exorbitant demand for money. But he had one thing that he was holding on to, which was a big stickler point for him. He wanted the then president of America, President Bush, to send him a letter saying that he recognizes him as a president of Ethiopia, as a prime minister of Ethiopia, because that was a position that was uncontested by America. America did not recognize him as a prime minister of Ethiopia. If President Bush will send a letter saying that he is the prime minister of Ethiopia, then he's willing to let these Ethiopians leave. So George Bush had a cabinet meeting with closer people to him, trying to figure this out. And they had a vote. And the vote was even. And then Colin Powell spoke up. Colin Powell said that in the late 40s, there was a fire. Remember which city it was in Shmuel? Remember which city?
The what?
With a fire.
In Israel?
Philadelphia.
No, in Philadelphia.
Oh.
And there was, is that you know, or you're just guessing?
No, I mean, my timing could be off. What year are we talking?
I can tell you what happened. There was a fire.
The row houses and
At
the fire
there was a 4-story building. There was a fire there, and there were 3 children on the 4th floor, and the firefighters couldn't get there, and so these kids were doomed. But this black guy, took this blanket and soaked it into water, and he put it on himself, and he ran up the stairs and he rescued the 3 children. When he came down, the parents were so appreciative, and they hugged him, and they said, "What can we do? We want to pay you. We want to thank you for what you've done." He said, "I am Jewish, and a Jew doesn't sell a mitzvah. What I did was called a mitzvah, a commandment of God, and a Jew does not sell a mitzvah." So Colin Powell said, "I was one of those 3 children. And therefore, I vote that you should sign." And he was the deciding vote, and George Bush signed, and that's how this mission took off. So there are feelings, then there is what the right thing is, and we shouldn't let our feelings get in the way of the right thing. The right thing, doing the right thing, has tremendous impact in the world. When you follow what Hashem wants you to do, is an incredible impact. There's a very fascinating teaching which I always think about. In Ethics of Our Fathers, it says, "Be careful with the easy mitzvah, as careful as you are with a hard mitzvah, because one mitzvah leads to another." What does that mean? The Meiri explains, there are some mitzvahs which are easy for you, some mitzvahs which are hard for you. Do the ones that are easy for you. Don't say, "Well, I can't do all of them, so it shows I have a lack of integrity, why should I do any?" No, do the ones which are easy for you, and they will, the merit of the mitzvahs that you're doing, not just a mitzvah, not just the merit, not just the psychology of it. The aura, you'll be wrapped with the light of Hashem in the mitzvah, and that light of Hashem, which will envelop your soul, will draw you to do another mitzvah. This mitzvah is too hard for you, fine, we'll get there. But focus on the ones you could do. You're able to get stuck up before davening. That doesn't bother you. You have a harder time concentrating throughout davening. Okay, we'll get there. Focus on the things you could do. You could say Meida'ani, you could even stuck before davening. That will bring you there. Remendel Futafas, Chaim Recha. It was a Farbrengen, Rabbi Savatitsky from Antwerp shared the following story. He had a Farbrengen, and at the Farbrengen there was a guy who was pretty religious, but he had one thing that he couldn't give up. He had some non-kosher food he liked. I don't know if it was lobster, I don't know if it was whatever it was, but it was something he liked that he couldn't get rid of. It's something that he liked. At the Farbrengen, he shared the following story. What was the story? Mendel Futafaz, a legendary Chabad Chassid, he spent years doing hard-time labor in Siberia. And while he was in Siberia, one guy comes over to him one day and he says, "Mendel, I need a blessing." Mendel was very respected by other prisoners because he showed his integrity. He didn't eat non-kosher food. He kept Shabbat. which was impossible, but he did it. And so one of the prisoners says to Randall, I need a blessing. Why you need a blessing? Because tomorrow I'm leaving. Leaving? How are you leaving? He says, listen, where I work, I see there's a good 10 minutes where the guards aren't watching us, and I have this knife, and I managed to, there's a gate, a metal gate, and every day I'm cutting off another piece of the wire that's holding the gate in place, and I have one part left. Tomorrow I'm going to cut it and I'm going to go. Mendel's like, well, even if you go, the guards, I'm not worried the guards are going to catch me. What about the dogs? They have dogs over there. The dogs are going to eat you alive. He said, I know it. I'll take care of the dogs as well. So Mendel, he next day he wants to see what's going to happen. The guy, sure enough, cuts the gate falls down, he runs away, and the dogs are running after him. And he throws, at the last second, he ran, but the dogs caught up, dogs are faster, and he threw meat at the dogs. And when the dogs got the meat, he ran away, and the guards couldn't catch him, he escaped. But the interesting thing, the guards right away shot the dogs. And then Mendel was surprised. He's like, why you shoot the dogs? He asked one of the officers, he said, why'd you guys shoot the dogs? He says, you understand. These dogs go to a special school, a canine training school. And they're trained for this moment. They're trained for the moment that when things come up and they need to be of service, need to catch they fail. And they fail for what? They fail for a piece of meat. For a piece of meat they failed. So Ramendel was thinking about this, like we talk about carning Hashem as our king, crowning Hashem as your king, but then it could be this piece of meat, and then you're like, this guy who was by the Fabringen, who had this craving for lobster or whatever it was, he's like, I'm done with it, and I'm not gonna be a dog, and this is what the Torah tells us this week. The Torah tells us you have an instinct in you that you don't want to help somebody. What does the Torah say? Leave the instinct. Actually, azov ta'azov imo means leave the hatred in your heart and go help them. Azov ta'azov imo. There's a very fascinating teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, which is very connected to this teaching. The simple meaning we understand. But let's go now to a deeper meaning and we'll see how it's connected. The Baal Shem Tov says you also have this verse which says when you see the donkey of your enemy crouching under its burden, has a deeper meaning. The donkey of your enemy, says the Baal Shem Tov, means your own body and your own animal soul. The burden refers to the burden of the Torah. And you see that your ego, your animalistic soul, your animal soul, doesn't like this burden. It wants to catch off it's your enemy. Your animal, your ego wants to cast off the burden of Torah mitzvahs. So what should you do about this? What should you do? You see you have inside of yourself, you have a nature that you want to let go of this burden of Torah mitzvahs. So what do you think? You might think, Chadalta ma'azavu. I don't want to help the body. I want to hurt the body. I'm going to start fasting. I'm going to start paining myself. I'm going to hurt myself. If I hurt myself more and more, that's how I'll get control. Says the Baal Shem Tov, Lo b'zadach yishkiner Hashem. That's not the way the light of Hashem will rest upon you. Rather, the Baal Shem Tov says, what should you do? You should help the body. You should help the animal soul. You shouldn't hurt it. You should help it. Why? It says in the Torah, in the ethics of our fathers, all that God created was for His glory. What that means is, as Maharal explains, not that Hashem needs glory, it's that everything in the world has meaning. Everything in the world has deep meaning. There's nothing that God created doesn't have meaning. Everything that God created has meaning. So, if you see that you have, we're very, it's very possible for a human being to, because of his ego, because of an animal soul, he goes the wrong way. As we were discussing before, we can let our emotions get control of us. In Hebrew, the words for emotions, midot, have the same root as the word measurement. Midot, feelings are good in the right measurement, if they're put in the right place. But the issue is not that we have bad feelings. The issue is the feelings are misplaced. There are, in Kabbalah, it says that intellect is called parents, because our thoughts give birth to our feelings, and our feelings are called children. Don't let your children control your life. Don't decide because you got a dry, cold text message from somebody that you're not going to be friends with them anymore. Don't decide because you got this nasty email from somebody, not going to be friends with them anymore. Don't decide you're going to marry someone because of a fleeting emotion instead of thinking about if you have a common vision for life, common fundamentals in life. Don't leave a job because you're in a bad mood. Your immediate feelings change. But the Torah also wants us to know that your animal soul has value too. So let's say you have a nature of pride. Let's say your issue is pride. Pride is a good thing too. Pride can be used in a very positive way. You could use your pride for confidence in serving Hashem. I could do this. There was a great tzaddik named Naftali of Ravshitz. Naftali of Ravshitz goes in the synagogue in Yom Kippur, and he sees that there's one guy, one of the wealthier people in the synagogue, who's joining the poorer crowd, staying there late in the synagogue. Usually the rich guys go home early, and the poor guys stay longer and they stay till all night. That's the way it was in Ravshitz. In LA, no one stays all night. But that's the way it was in Ravshitz. The rich guy, he's staying with the poor guys. Rav Tali says, listen, I want to tell you, I'm going to ask you a question. If someone working in the Navy and he wants to work instead in the Army, would he get a medal? Someone's in the Army. He wants to switch to the Navy, would he get a medal? Would he get an honor? He says, no, he would be called deserter. He's deserting his post. He has to do his position. He says, listen, your position is you're able to give tzedakah. You're able to help people. Don't confuse your mission. Don't confuse your mission. The guy got the point. He wasn't saying to him, you shouldn't say Psalm, you shouldn't say Tehillim. He was saying, recognize what resources Hashem has given you and what you're able to do. The next day, when they had the auction for the mitzvahs, this guy gave 10,000 rubles. Like, yeah, I know what I could do. Let me give you a better example. There was another wealthy man. Rabbi Zevin writes this story. I don't remember which tzaddik it was. And he told the rabbi of his city, he says, Rabbi, I decided that I'm going to fast every Monday and Thursday. The rabbi was like, don't you dare do that. He said, why not? I want to have penance for my soul. I want to fast Monday and Thursday. The rabbi was like, listen. Right now, you eat rib steak. People come to your house asking for help. You give them money to buy bread. If you're going to fast, what are you going to give them? You're going to give them rocks? If you eat rib steak, you'll help people have... There is a certain responsibility we have because of the gifts that we were given. So if Hashem gave you a tendency, let's say, of anger, that's what you're dealing with. Anger could be used as a positive way as well. You could be angry at your evil inclination. Why are you causing me to be distant from Hashem? Let me say it this way. I heard the story today. I don't know the source of the story, but I believe that this story has a true content, whether the actual story took place the way I'm saying it, the way I heard it. It was in the 60s. There was a young man from a very Hasidic family, and he got carried away by the 60s, the hippies, and he got tattoos and grew his hair. And his father and grandfather were Chabad Hasidim from OG Hasidim. They weren't very proud of the way he was behaving, and they asked him to accompany them to visit the Rebbe. And this young man was like, I'll visit the Rebbe on my terms. No, I'm not going to wear a kippah. And he dressed as he dressed, but not only that. He comes to the Rebbe's office with his father and grandfather, and he sits down and he puts his feet on the Rebbe's desk.
Whoa. I know people
You heard
who
the story?
stuff like this.
I never did.
I know somebody who put their arm on the Rebbe's stender.
Okay, this is the way I heard the story. He put his feet on the Rebbe's desk, and the Rebbe said, more or less, I see that you have a strong sense of courage, and you're not affected by what other people's opinion is of you. So, what do you think about going into your college? In your college, a lot of people which hide their Jewishness, not proud of who they are. What do you think about starting a club, a Jewish club in your college? What do you think about standing up and making and bringing people together? Do you think you could do that? The guy took his feet off the Rebbe's desk, and he melted completely. Like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. And this is what did Rebbe do over here? What did Rebbe do? The Rebbe said this guy has this power. He should use it for a good thing. It says in the ethics of our fathers, who is mighty? He who conquers his evil inclination, or he conquers his inclination. That's actual words. It doesn't say who breaks his evil inclination. It says who conquers it. We all have different kinds of tendencies that we could use in a good way. We all know that Rabbi Zusha of Annapolis, he said, I could learn 7 things from a thief. Because the beginning of serving Hashem is to use your nature in serving Hashem. Let me say it this way, Rabbi, before we get to your question. There were, it says in the Talmud that there are 3 people that teach us that the wicked are controlled by their hearts. And 3 people teach us that the righteous people control their hearts. It says Esav spoke in his heart. Esau. It says Yeravam spoke in his heart. Haman spoke in his heart. It also says, so Esav, Yeravam, and Haman were people who were governed by their hearts. They were wicked and they were governed by their hearts. Conversely, it says Daniel, Chana, and David, they spoke on their hearts, above their hearts, to their hearts. What does this mean? It says in Ethics of Our Fathers, there are 3 things that make a person leave the world early. Jealousy, lust, and glory. So Esav represents lust. Esav represents desire. Esav, after all, sold his birthright for a bowl of lentil soup, right? So he is someone who is controlled by his feelings. If Esav would live today in 2025, he would go after you want that soup? Is that what you want? Go for it. That's what you want, right? Then we have Yeravam. Unbelievable. This is an incredible story about Yeravam. Yeravam was someone, it's a deeper story, I'm not going to get all of it tonight, but that's one line of Yeravam's life. God spoke to Yeravam. And God said to Yeravam, you, Ben Yishai, and I will go together to heaven. We'll walk together in heaven. What was his response? Who's going to be in the front?
Yeah.
Hashem said already, you will be in the front. Yeravam, David, and I will walk together. He said, no. Who's going to be in the front? You want to make sure. Hashem said, okay, you lost it. David will be in the front. And okay, I don't want it. I don't want to go to heaven with you and David. I want to be in the front. So his jealousy got control of him. Then there was Haman. Haman, the whole city is bowing down to Haman. The whole city, but one person's not bowing down to him. Haman wanted glory. And one person not bowing down to him, that was too much for him. Conversely, Torah says it tells us that there were 3 tzaddikim. Daniel was someone who, in the king's palace, had the greatest delicacies, yet he gave all the delicacies away and he ate seeds. He ate poor man's food. He ate seeds. That was one kosher thing. Chana, she had to contend with her jealous co-wife, Penina. And her other wife, Penina, had many children. She didn't have any children. And yet Chana was able to withstand the feelings of jealousy, and she followed what Hashem wanted of her, and she prayed for a child, and God granted her a child that became the leader of the Jewish people. And King David HaMelech, he didn't want the glory of the monarchy. He gave it away. It wasn't important to him. So this is the message the Torah is telling us this week, is that we have to be authentic, yes. What does authentic mean? Authentic doesn't mean to follow your feelings. Your feelings don't define who you are. Authentic means you follow what Hashem wants you to do. To push aside what you may be feeling at the moment for what you know in the depth of your mind and heart what really Hashem is asking you. I saw this week interesting note of the Rabbi, very instinct what we're talking about. This lady, she was helped by these Armenians. And because the Armenians were so extremely kind to her, she thought she has to follow their way of life. She has to give up her Jewishness and become an Armenian and follow whatever Christian religion that they follow. And she asked the Rebbe, these are the first people that were nice to me. And everybody responded to her, I'm paraphrasing more or less, the Rebbe said that God is found in the heart of every Jew from birth. God is in your heart. And as God said when God gave us the Torah, God said, I am the Lord your God. So that's who you are. And to leave that behind, to say that doesn't, just because these people are nice to you, doesn't mean that you have to leave your heart. Saying you don't believe in it, the Rebbe says, is like saying you don't believe you have a heart. You have a heart. They brought into you this kind of notion, but the Rebbe said you're a Jew. It means for 100 generations, your family gave their lives for Torah for 100 generations. That's who you are. So we have to realize who we are and what we are, and we have to be strong in realizing that we're led by Hashem's hand for a mission, whatever is going on. We're not alone. Huh? I'll conclude with one story of the Rebbetzin. Today's Rebbetzin yard site. I heard the following story from the Rebbetzin driver, Chesed Halberstam. The Rebbetzin would go off into a park, and one time she was going with her driver to the park, and they took a detour. They went off to a side road, and on the side road, she saw a police car, a moving truck, and a tractor home, and a woman sitting on the steps of the tractor home, screaming in Russian, "Oh God, oh God!" So when they got to the red light, Rebbetzin asked Rabbi Halberstam, could he please make a U-turn and go back there? They make a U-turn, and the Rebbetzin asked Rabbi Halberstam, please find out what's going on. He comes back, and basically the bank was repossessing their home because they couldn't pay their mortgage. So Rebbetzin asked Rabbi Halberstam, can you find out how much it is, and if they'll take a private check? And he comes back, I don't know exactly, it was thousands of dollars, I don't remember exactly how much it was. It was a lot of money. And the Rebbetzin immediately wrote a check. Okay, they go back in the car, they go to the park, and the Rebbetzin, Rabbi Halberstam he says to the Rebbetzin, Rebbetzin, I'm only a driver, I'm not supposed to ask questions, but can I ask you a question? Okay, sure. Why did you decide to help these people of all people? There are many people who need help. Why did you decide these are the people you want to help? So the Rebbetzin said, my father taught me that the Baal Shem Tov says, whatever you see or hear is a message from Hashem.
Oh.
So usually, what do we think about that? We think all of a sudden,
even from a guy?
Whatever you see or hear is a message from Hashem. Whatever you see or hear, doesn't matter from who. The famous story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov's students, this non-Jewish man came to the Baal Shem Tov students, and he said, my wagon is stuck in the mud, I need help. And they're like, we can't help you. And he says, you could help me, you just don't want to help me. And the Baal Shem Tov says, this is a message from God. Think about what you could do and what you want to do, right? So this is getting back to Rebbetzin. She said, whatever you see or hear is a message from Hashem. What do I hear? When I hear like, I'm going to become like Aristotle. I'm going to become philosophized what I see when I hear. What does the Rebbetzin hear? It says, this is a message from Hashem for me right now and actually do something. Not to pay attention to my feelings. What does Hashem really want from me? That's the path of the Rebbetzin. It's the path of Mashiach. The path to get to discover who we are. The path to discover who Shlomo is. Shlomo, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Baruch Hashem, it's a great privilege to be your friend, and Hashem should bless you, that your heart's eyes for good, and use your amazing power of happiness, Shadbash, Shodrabash, Batam Rakos, until B'yas Mashiach, L'chaim, L'chaim.